I'd like to call this May 9th council meeting to order. Would everybody please rise for a moment of silence? Please salute the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Field, want to do roll call, please?
Mr. Lund? Here. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Nell?
Here.
Rodriguez?
Here.
Busey?
Here.
Mr. Sabatini? Mr. Flensky?
Here.
Mr. DiGiuseppe?
Here. This time I'm going to open up public participation.
Good evening. I'm Greg Pezza. I'm a resident of the East Ward. And at this point in time, it's no secret that I am a candidate for Borough Council. And as I walk around the ward and around town, I hear a number of things that people are concerned with. They're concerned with the Mill Run property. They're concerned with the Farragut Avenue Business District. They're concerned with Riverfront North, Simon & Schuster, the maintenance facility, parking. But there's one other major thing that I think they're also looking for, and that is civility. As I've been going around, people would just like the level of public discourse to be more civil, and I tend to agree with that. So tonight and over the next week, as we approach, the silly season, if you will, I think that it's important that we all keep this in mind and that we tone down the rhetoric, because I think the rhetoric can get ugly and it can get heated, and I think we need to keep the level of decorum at a certain level and keep that in mind as we are continuing with these conversations. And I think it's also very important that we give the people of the meetings why people watch the meetings, what they want, and that is that they want information. And I think that it's important that we just keep to the facts and to the points and provide the people with the information that they're looking for. And I know for one that I am hoping that with the maintenance facility, it was made pretty clear to me. I thought last week did clarify some of it, but it seems to me like maybe we could just do a little bit more and provide some final clarification on the maintenance facility and altogether. So I thank you for your time, and have a good evening.
Anybody else on this side of the room would like to speak on anything? Anybody on this side of the room would like to speak on anything?
Good evening. I'm Ken Bexler. I live in the East Ward also. I was up here last week, and I agree with Mr. Pezza. Civility is an important thing at these meetings. A lot of people in town and out of town can see these meetings, and sometimes they're not portraying the best of the qualities of Bristol. But I was up here last week, and I just wanted to clarify. There was an issue we were talking about, as Mr. Pezza said, about the Public Works facility, trying to clarify, and hopefully tonight maybe you can clarify a little more in detail because of the miscommunication with the meeting and the headlines in the paper, that there was a grant applied for a couple years ago for a different project that was approved, but then you didn't follow through with that project. You moved the funds to another project, and you were waiting for approval for that, and you got approved for that project also, I'm under the understanding. But you're still waiting for the funds to be released, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we don't know to this day if we're going to get the full amount or not, correct?
No, we do know.
You know you're going to get, how do you know that?
I have a letter that I'll read tonight, but
Okay.
we were definitely approved for the project.
For the full amount. Okay, that's good. I'm glad. If you can clarify that, that's wonderful.
Happy?
That's all. Am I happy? I'm just, let me put it this way. Don't feel that myself or like last week, Mr. Devine, we're not against getting the money. That would be crazy, like you said. We just want to know if it's confirmed, if we definitely have the money in the bank. That's all. All right, and we don't want people to think we have it and we don't have it.
Okay.
Okay, that was one thing. All right, also, like last week, you had to make it known that I'm a supporter of Mr. Lutz. I mean, that's okay. I mean, I don't hide who I support. I'll tell anybody who I support and why I support them. Nothing against Mr. Pezza. I know you're a supporter of Mr. Pezza. That's fine. But anyhow, I just wanted to clarify that. I'm not trying to hide who I support and why I support them.
Free country.
Excuse me?
It's a free country.
Absolutely, absolutely. Also, like, I did want to just refresh, I'm sure most people remember, but I'd like to refresh some people's minds. I realize this council has accomplished a lot. Kudos to you for that. But there were some good accomplishments 15, 20, 25 years ago in this town also. I just have a short list, like the lagoon renovation, the Grundy Clock renovation, Spurline Park. That was a grand slam, that one. Whoever came up with that idea. Maybe Mr. Pezza would remember, I don't know.
I did the lagoon with Representative Carter. Thanks for bringing it up, I appreciate it.
Sure. No, I was saying, that's good too. No, I was saying about Spurline Park. I mean, I didn't.
Rails to Trails money to remove the rail spur and put in a nice jogging and walking path. It's very nice. For the
And thousands of people use that daily. I mean, it's a great asset to Bristol.
I feel proud.
The Riverside Theater, I mean, I can go on with other, projects, Riverfront North, the over 55 community. I mean, there was a lot of accomplishments 20 years ago too. So, I mean, we not to take.
We all sit here to try to do the best we can for the town.
Okay. There is just one thing that I did want to ask you, and it's kind of past tense from it, but it bothered me since I heard it, and if maybe you could, bring me up to speed on this. The road resurfacing project that was done, roads look great, okay? But I do remember a lot of criticism directed at Mr. Lutz, Councilman Lutz, because he didn't want to do 80% of the town at one time. He wanted to do them on an ongoing basis, 20 streets a year, whatever. But the majority of council wanted to go ahead with the project, to do, the majority of the town, take out the loan and pay for the loan with the liquid fuel money, correct? Now, I remember, Mr. Chairman, you saying that it's not going to cost the taxpayers any money because the money will be coming from liquid fuels that we get from the state, correct?
Correct.
And the only way that we wouldn't get that money, or not all that money, is if people stopped driving or didn't drive as much, correct?
Correct.
All right, well, at the time, gasoline was $2 a gallon. It's about $4 right now. Okay, so that could affect some of the liquid fuel money. Do you think so?
No, not really.
And it could. But another point I wanted to bring up was Governor Corbett cut $1 billion in education spending in the state budget. We have, a $4 billion shortfall in the state budget. What's to say next year he doesn't say we're going to cut liquid fuel money?
There's no say that I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I did. I'd be a millionaire today.
I hope it doesn't happen, but it can happen.
Well, let me explain something to you, Mr. Fixer. I'm glad you brought this up again, and I hate to keep going backwards. The proposal that this council put forth was, the roads were so bad because they were neglected for so many years that if we did Mr. Lutz's project, it would take 40-some years to pave 80% of the roads. In the meantime, how bad do you think them roads would be today? Think about taking a road like Wilson Avenue, as bad as it was.
That was bad, yes.
Let that sit for another 20 years.
Well, it wouldn't. That would be at the top of the list.
Would any borough resident in this town want to drive on a road that was filled with potholes and deteriorating? So this council put together the first, I think, in the county, and everybody now is trying to model this program. We went to PennDOT and to the state and said, can we take our liquid fuel money and we'll borrow $2 million. The payment's about $120,000 a year. We get about $170,000 or $200,000 from liquid fuels. 168.
And the bond's costing us $114,000.
So we would take, the payment's $114, we would take the $168, pay, and we shortened the loan from 20 years to 15 years, if you remember. So in 15 years, the loan's paid off using liquid fuel, and we still have about $50,000 or more a year to put into a maintenance program. So if one of the roads went bad, or if we had to do work on the roads, we're going to try to start building up a fund. Now, I don't know how we could have accomplished this without taking this model that we put together and did all your roads. I think it's probably the smartest thing that any borough or township has ever come up with. Now, you're saying, can Corbett cut the funding? Sure, but even if he cut the funding, what was the solution? To leave our roads this way for 40 years?
No.
Okay,
No.
so then what would you recommend?
I'll tell you, I live on Cleveland Street. Cleveland Street
Right.
was repaved. To be honest with you, it really didn't need to be repaved right when it did. Would it have lasted another 3 or 5 years? Most likely. It had some patchwork from sewer work and all, but it really wasn't like Wilson Avenue, wasn't like Buckley Street. They were bad.
And a lot of
They-
these roads, don't forget, we negotiated a deal with Aqua, who paid 50% of the paving. We negotiated some deals with Pico when they went in and did some gas work a few years ago, that they paid a portion of some of this paving. It was a win-win project for this entire town. I don't think you can find one resident that come up here and said they're not happy that their street was paved.
Who wouldn't be? Of
Versus
course, no.
Mr. Lutz's suggestion to wait 42 years to do all the roads.
No, that's not what his suggestion was.
Yes, it was. It
His
was,
sug-
let's
his-
spend, I'll quote this for you, and if Mr. Lutz wants to get involved in this conversation,
Okay.
Mr. Lutz said, let's take the liquid fuel money that we get every year and only spend that to do a road. So if it's $168,000 a year, if Wilson Avenue took $300,000 to pave it, it would take us 2 years to pave Wilson Avenue. We would have to do half 1 year, wait for the money to come in, and pave the other half. And that's without any base repair. And Mr. Schroeder's here tonight, and I can guarantee you, he has a report probably in that briefcase or somewhere that'll tell you there wasn't one road in this town that was paved that should have not been paved. So, did we correct all the drainage problems? Absolutely not. Did we add Absolutely not. We did what we had to do to accomplish to keep the taxpayers of this town happy, and that is to pave the roads so there's not one pothole in Bristol Borough. And not only the roads, we did numerous alleys. So, it was a win. This project couldn't work out any better, and we projected it, Kurt, what, 3 million or 4 million, and it came in at 2 or under 2? So how could you, we would have had to do this project whether it was 2 million, 3 million, or 4 million. We had to do something
Right.
with our roads. We could not let borough residents continue to drive on these roads.
It's a win, as long as the funding keeps coming in, first of all. At the capacity
I know
that...
one thing, Mrs. Fields been here for 40-some years. Has liquid fuels ever not come into the borough?
No.
We're,
40-some years, we have a history that it's always been here. So going forward, is it ever going to stop? I don't know.
I hope it doesn't. I'm not wishing that,
If
Mr.
it does, we're going to have to convert that loan into some kind of debt service. But I don't ever foresee the governor of Pennsylvania taking away liquid fuels. Matter of
Not
fact,
taking away, but cutting it.
if he cuts it by, if we get 200,000, let's use round numbers. If he cuts it by 20%, that's 40,000. That still leaves 160. The payment's only 114. Is he going to cut it by 30%?
What,
I mean,
maybe?
let's be honest now. How much are they going to...
I don't know.
Okay,
Who knew that he was going to cut $1 billion in education funding and people are running around
Sure,
scrambling?
what is the point you're trying to
Well, my
make?
point was, and then I'll step down after this is my final point, was with the two, like, your way you paid with the liquid fuel, Mr. Lutz's way you paid with the liquid fuel. This way, we took out the $2 million loan over 15, 20 years, whatever it is. Hopefully, the roads will last, 15
not
15 years.
20.
All right, 15 years. And the roads, hopefully, you just mentioned Pico's going to rip up a bunch of the roads.
We had a meeting with them last week, and every road they rip up, they're going to have to repave.
Okay.
We have a 5-year moratorium on all the roads. Nobody is allowed to come in unless it's an emergency and dig up our road. And if you do, if it's a sewer problem, you have to do a new patch, which is a infrared patch versus the old style where it melts it in. And if you dig up more than so many feet of a road, you have to replace the road. So we met with Pico last week. They're going to be on that East Circle. Is that up East Circle? They're going to be tearing up because there's not enough pressure in the main. Myself, Mr. Dillon, Merle Winslow, Herbie Slack, the fire chief, Kurt Schroeder from Gilmore. We had a big meeting, representatives from Pico, representatives from the gas company. We sat around, we have an agreement that's going to be signed. Any road that they touch will be put back the way it was.
Okay, that's great. I guess, like I said, my final point I was trying to make was, if, like Mr. Lutz said, let's do 20 or 25 streets a year. The worst, but let me finish my point, Mr. President, then you can answer me. If we took the worst streets, like Wilson Avenue, Buckley Street, whatever, they were horrible. You know, you take the worst streets and do them. And then next year, the governor cuts liquid fuels. It could happen.
All right.
Not likely, but it could happen. Well, we can't do 25 streets next year. We can only do 10 or 15. But we're still on that safety net because we didn't take out that loan. And we have that payment, like you said, it'll have to be moved into debt service or whatever. Money has to come from somewhere to make up the shortfall, if it happens.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, I guess I owned a couple businesses. I'm a homeowner. I look at, I try to look into the future. It's like, who wants to buy a house with a mortgage based on their salary and their overtime? That's crazy. I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but maybe it's a bad analogy.
It
But,
is.
but, well, you're using
I don't know
money.
anybody-
You're using money that 5 years down the road, you don't know what could happen to that funding.
Let me explain this to you again. First of all, Mr. Lutz's proposal wasn't to do 20 or 30 roads, because we only did 80 roads total. Am I right, correct?
Well,
It's over 100, but...
all right, well, I just threw that figure out. I
And
don't
we
know.
couldn't do Wilson Avenue, Buckley Street, and whatever other street in 1 year. We still, if you wanted to only do them roads, we would have still had to borrow money. Now, could have we left Wilson Avenue for 2 or 3 more years? Answer that.
It was bad.
Okay, so if we didn't have the money to pave it, what would your suggestion be?
So Wilson Avenue and Buckley, they were the worst, I would say.
Okay, but we didn't have enough money at $160,000 to do them
So it would
roads.
cost more than $160,000 to do those 2 roads?
Yes, it did. I mean, I don't know if you have,
Small quantity, too, you pay a higher price.
right.
All right, that's, I just...
The other thing is, on $1.5 million or $2 million, if the payment's $114,000 a year, it's probably $1.5 million related to the taxpayer, and $1.5 million probably equates to about, what, $20?
16 and 8, 20, about $22.
It's about $22 a year to the taxpayer. You go do a survey in Bristol Borough. Tell me what taxpayer for $22 a year, if they had to pay for new roads, wouldn't want to pay for it and come back here?
Okay.
Would you pay for it if I told you, Mr. Bixler, we're going to pave every road in Bristol if things go bad? The worst it's going to cost you is $22 a year.
Well, that $22 a year is coming out of my municipal taxes, but you said also money was allocated from Aqua that I
Hey,
paid.
they gave us money
Right,
to pay for the roads.
but we all pay a lot of, for our water from Aqua
Well,
too,
that
I would
doesn't
agree
come
to that.
us. I mean, that's, you got to go back, that we didn't sell the...
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying, but that, we're paying for that funding too. The only other thing I have was, last week, you mentioned you didn't believe that my sewer bills were $90 to $100. I did bring proof if you'd like to see it, or...
Mine are over 100.
All right, well,
So I'm just saying...
so when you said, when I said it, I'm sorry, excuse me?
I apologize for that.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate that. And I don't doubt that the average homeowner pays $40.25, but a lot of people pay a lot more than that,
You're right.
and that's all. That's
And
all.
the sewer, again, is based on your water.
You're right, I understand that. Yeah.
That's something that we don't, sewer authority meetings are held
Second Tuesday.
second Tuesday of every month, so you would have to go there and discuss that.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
Let me just add that we did receive notice from Harrisburg about this year's liquid fuels allocation, and it's approximately $3,500 more than we budgeted, so it has went up this year. So
Wonderful.
Okay,
that's just a point of information.
let's keep our fingers crossed. Thanks.
Oh, We got an extra $3,500 this year, so I don't think it'll ever be cut.
Hope not.
Thank you.
Anybody else? That ends public participation. Before we get started with our regular agenda, and I don't know, should we wait for Mike or?
He's still...
Okay. I just want to bring everybody up to date again. Do you have that letter from Congressman Murphy?
Here you go.
Just so we could hopefully clear this grant up once and for all. First of all, Congressman Murphy wanted to be here this evening and he couldn't. And Congressman former Congressman Murphy wanted to be here this evening, he couldn't. Congressman Fitzpatrick wanted to be here, he's still texting Mr. Dillon. His aide is here, his chief of staff, Mr. Robert Mitchell, is here from Congressman Fitzpatrick's office. I'm going to read you 2 letters, and hopefully this puts it to rest. Dear Mr. DiGiuseppe, President of Bristol Borough Council, it was nice seeing you this past Saturday at the Bristol Wharf for the Walk for Autism sponsored by the Ancient Order of Hibernians. Thank you for always being so supportive to this great cause. As we discussed, I would like to clear up some misunderstanding about the above referenced grant. While in office, I secured 2 grants from the National Resource Conservation Service totaling $1,080,000. I am proud of our efforts to revitalize Bristol Borough, and I am glad to hear that the Natural Resource Conservation Service has approved your plan to spend the grant on the borough's new public works site. I wish you great success with this project as it moves forward. Please give my kindest regrets to all of you, and I look forward to seeing you at St. Anne's on Sunday. So what he's saying is he secured the grant, he spoke to somebody, the project is now being approved to start spending money on the public works. That's former Congressman Murphy. As of 7 o'clock, that's why we were late coming out, Mr. Dillon received the grant, and again, Mr. Mitchell is here, Mike's chief of staff, and it says, Jim, I am still in Philadelphia and running behind. I spoke with NRCS officials and confirmed that both contracts are solid and that all funds are appropriated. I do not see any problem, and I will text when I get back out of the meeting. Congressman Mike Fitzpatrick. If this isn't enough information to clear up about this grant, please don't even come here and discuss it anymore. I don't know what else we can do to make everybody in this town understand, and I think everybody in this town should be happy that this borough received another $1 million. So with this, we will put the project out to bid. Kurt, you're still shooting for the end of the month or the beginning of June? That means we have the $1,080,000. We're going to start drawing against this for engineering fees and things like that. We have the money in our capital improvement fund, which will finish the project. We're getting some numbers that we're saying even could come in hopefully at 1.415. We re-engineered this building, we cut it down, Kurt. I can't even tell you how many times we met on this project. But, you know, who knows where the bids are going to be, but I know one thing, it will not cost taxpayers one dime. End of story. You happy, Mr. Bixler?
Am I allowed to speak?
You're allowed to speak.
Yeah, when you said, talk to me, you said we were going to get the full amount, but in those letters, it said they were going to release it, but didn't say if they were the same, but they actually, 1.1 is still the same.
I can't even, I don't even want to get into this. You don't understand.
Because that's a yes then, right?
Forget it.
Yes? That's a yes?
If you don't understand what I just read, forget about it. That ends public participation.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of April 11th, April 16th, and May 2nd. to accept the treasurer's report for March, to accept the police and DJ's report for April, to accept the fire chief's report for April, and to accept the borough inspector's report for April.
A second.
By Mrs. Trinnell. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 3.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask for a resolution designating May 1st through the 7th, 2011 as National Arson Awareness Week.
I have a second by Mr. Polensky. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 4.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to accept third-party electric supply cost reduction program report for the borough's electric account dated 5/2/11.
Second by Mrs. Cullen. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 5.
Mr. President, I'd like to approve the U.S. Department of Agriculture Natural Resources Conservation Services Assurance Form relating to ownership of real property acquisition.
I have a second by Ms. Rodriguez. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 6.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve hiring Daniel P. Becker Esquire as special counsel.
I have a second by Mr. Polensky. Bill, you want to refer to you or just vote on it? Just vote on it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Question?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you. I thought you were talking to Mr. Schreiner. Excuse me. The rate is $225 an hour.
Right.
In 2010, our legal fee budget line item was 50% over. I'm going to ask the manager to give us a review at the end of the second quarter, June 30th, for an update on the status of our legal fees for 2011.
Mr. Lutz, you sat in on this meeting when we all agreed that we would hire this attorney for special counsel, but what you understand is this isn't something that the borough thought would happen, so these things occur, and you know you're going to be over budget with that.
Well, I would like to think that most of the outside attorneys could be replaced by our own solicitor, that he could do most of that work.
He can't.
Well, he can't.
He can't because it's a conflict, and
Well, listen, I know we last year we budgeted 60,000, we spent over 90. And I'm concerned that the same thing doesn't happen this year. So I'm asking, I didn't say I was opposed to this.
no, I'm just trying to explain why we're,
Do the budget account at the end of June, at the end of the second quarter.
that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Mrs. Trinnell's abstained because she sits on the Civil Service Commission. Number 7.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion accepting the land development time extension request for Walmart Supercenter expansion to July 15th, 2011.
Second by Ms. Rodriguez. Any questions or comments?
Can I bring council up to date? This is finally moving forward. I know we've extended it a number of times. I think they're scheduled to be in front of the Planning Commission this month, and hopefully, if everything goes good, they're going to come before council in June, and I will bring council up to date on the specifics at the work session in June. So hopefully, this will get approved, and they'll break ground sometime this year.
With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry. We had a brief executive session. The mayor wanted to update us on litigate personnel matters, so that's what we were in executive session for. Mayor, you have anything?
Yeah. I've been asked by the fire companies to advise people that are here and at home that if there is a fire in town and you see a fire hose stretch out over the road, please do not ride over it. This is what happens to it when you do. It costs $6 a foot to replace a hose like this. So please, if you see a fire hose stretched out over the roads, please do not ride over them.
I broke.
Matter of fact, I think it is.
I ran over one. All those in, can I get, I'm sorry.
No.
I love you. You are true.
You got her all confused, Bob.
And you know what I'm confused about?
We okay? Motion to adjourn?
Got
No, I have other business. I thought you were voting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
1 second, just 1 second. There's a beef and beer on the 21st of May. This is the fire police and some of the most dedicated volunteers this town sees. Every fire call, every accident, every festival. So if you could, May 21st, 8 to 12 at the Bucks Moose Lodge. So
In Turks.
they're a good organization. They really deserve our support.
Yes, they do.
No, I'm good. Thanks.
I now get a motion to adjourn.
Now you got it.